Orleans, 1981. It was the hottest summer on record. Humidity coated the city like a mass of rancid honey. If ever the city owned up to its ancient nickname, the wet grave, it was in the summer of 81. The murder was brutal and archaic. The victim, Frank Bousseau, was powerful and important. A call was placed for outside help. The NOPD wasn't above begging. The Beaumont agency was asked to consult, and that's how we got wrapped up in this mess. The freshly baked evidence file was kinda thin, not much to chew on, but we had some leads. We scoured the city and see what we could dig up. I started at Laveau Court. They always seemed to be at the center of politics, crime, and even magic. Getting past the receptionist was a breeze, but their CEO, Charlotte Batten, was a different story. She wouldn't give me any details at first, but I pressed on her a little, and she snapped. I left her to cool off. I had something that was bugging me, something personal. The killing had similarities to Maria's murder. Breaking on the wheel was an 18th century manner of execution. This had to be a pattern. I needed to return to our home. Maybe I missed something, some connection. As I walked into the house, some thug jumped me. He got me good at first, but thankfully, I had some extra help. Those Laveau suits would need to try harder to get me off this case. Something bigger was going on, something we weren't meant to be digging into. This hired goon, those dead Saturday scumbags, the fanatics of the Inquisition. Hell, even the bloody casket girls were showing an interest in the case. And now, dark magic was starting to appear, ritualistic and sinister. How could we stand up against the very lower of death, let alone the monstrosities lurking in the shadows? There was so much more to this case than we ever imagined.
Hello everybody, it is Az here with Lucky Duck Games, and I'll be welcoming very shortly Evan of Van Ryder Games, who'll be joining us to answer your questions, have a chat about how the campaign's going. Can you believe we've less than a week left? And very, very happy to see Twitch, Facebook and YouTube working well. Hello Brie, happy Friday to you. Shep, it looks like Shep's playing Blood on the Clock Tower. Yes, you should always nominate Carly. Assume that Carly is always the demon, or at least a minion and doing something bad. Hello to you. And Pleady, nice wave. Hello to you as well. I hope no matter where you are in the world, wherever time you're watching this, whether it's live or if you're watching an hour later, because oh my goodness, I definitely shared the wrong time in the Kickstarter update. I'm so sorry if you come an hour later and you missed this. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you join us before the campaign ends on the 5th of May. I can't believe that we're actually that close. Today, we're going to be chatting a little bit about the campaign. We just released a massive Kickstarter update with lots of questions answered by the one and only Evan Derrick, who did just an incredible job, I think, of answering all the big questions. We're going to have a chat to Evan in a second, talk to him about the FAQ, about the game in general, his feelings. If you've got any questions, you can pop them in the comments no matter what platform you're on, and I will pick them up. But without much further ado, Evan. Hello, sir.
Hey.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm gonna dob you in right away. I'm gonna actually. I said, Evan, this will be relaxed. We'll just have a chat. But you know what? I'm gonna put Evan on the spot right away, because just before this stream started, he did something that I loved so much, which is he hid his Nerf gun.
Oh.
It was a stone cold move as well. It was just like,
you want to see my Nerf? That's my Nerf gun. I mean, it was sitting in the back here. I could put it back just like that.
Is there
make you happy?
Like, every office should have a Nerf gun, right? I kind of feel like it's a rite of passage. I unfortunately have no one to shoot in my home office, but you've got AJ there, right? Who you can kind of.
I have AJ and other people, but mostly I use it to shoot wasps that sneak in through the vents.
Oh, Lucky Duck Games and Van Ryder Games do not condone nerfing of wasps, but you know, whatever you need to do to protect yourself. Shep says, watching your big smile is contagious. As thank you very much, Shep. I hope you get a horrible case of big smiles. Vince is here. Nice shirt, us. Thank you, Vince. When you're on a stream with the well-dressed and charismatic Evan, you've got to bring your A game, right? So, get a shirt on. Bree says, hi, Evan. And Jeff says, hope you aren't nerfing the Dark Quarter characters. Well, if you read the update, the FAQ, it only came out 2 hours ago, so you may not have had a chance to read it because it was chunky. You may have seen that Evan might not necessarily, you might not be the one nerfing characters, but if players make bad decisions, if they don't fight the Casket Girl successively, they might have their throat ripped out and be nerfed. Might not necessarily, you might not be. Oh. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to just show everyone who's watching on stream. This is like absolutely worth a read. We've just posted this today. We've talked about the social stretch goals, which, by the way, if you haven't seen, we're so close to this stretch goal. This is incredible. Now, I'm going to put my hands up and say, look, let's not lie. Launching a Twitter social stretch goal just as Elon Musk bought Twitter. I'm not going to say it was a crazy decision. I will say the timing was suspect. Maybe Elon's back in the Dark Quarter. Maybe he's not. I'm not going to assume, but they happen.
Hashtag spoiler alert: Elon Musk will not be making an appearance in the Dark Quarter.
Oh man, are we really saying no this early?
Feel pretty confident about that one.
So if you haven't gone over and liked our tweets on Twitter, on both on the Lucky Duck and Van Ryder page, go and do it. Where I think we're on, it was something like nearly 1,200, so we're only 1,121 so far. We just need 379 more to get linen finish unlocked on the player boards, on the punch boards, and the cards. This is something that I really would love to see in the game. So hopefully we can get there. I think we will. And we also did the daily unlock, of course, that we do every single day. Daily unlock 18. We've got Constance Moreau has 2 brand new ability cards and 4 new locations as well. And then beneath this, you have a truly chunky, massive, incredible update from Evan, where Evan has written about replayability, about the characters, about development, about what happens if you lose or fail a scenario, which technically you can't really do, but you can read more about it there. We also talked about how the rating system works, how when you get to the end of the scenario, how the app determines how well you did, how badly you did, and how you go between disastrous or excellent. Casey, it's lovely to see you. Hello, nice to have you here on a live. Incredibly active in the comments, all the love, and did an amazing job on those Destinies minis that you shared. Which was really great. Shep says, look at this another way. Imagine how would the social stretch goal go if it was set for Truth Social instead of Twitter. I don't know what Truth Social is. Am I out of the loop? Is that, what the heck is that? I'm gonna have to be told what that is because I've never heard of Truth Social. You a Truth Social user, Evan?
I'm too old. I don't want more social media accounts. I want fewer at this stage in my life.
Yeah, I struggle keeping up with just Facebook and Instagram myself. Twitter occasionally I dive into, but then you've got Board Game Geek, and then you've got keeping up with all the news sites that I follow. Yeah, I don't need another one, Shep. Please no. Oh wow, I did not know this. That is Trump's social media platform. Wow, I did not know that. Thank you for educating us.
Not a part of that.
There's a little part of me that just kind of wants to take a look, though. I kind of want to know what it's like.
Is that the same part of you that just kind of wants to read the YouTube comments?
Right. No matter how many years you create multimedia content, or you're a writer or a game designer, and people tell you, don't read the comments, don't do it. Sometimes it's just part of you is like, kind of want to have a look. Just a little look, but you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. So, if you haven't read it, go and check out that FAQ. I have a bunch of questions that I'm going to throw at Evan today that actually weren't in the FAQ because more have come up, and thankfully loads of backers in the comments have been asking questions on Board Game Geek. There's been questions as well, which is really great. We couldn't cover them all, so we thought we'd do something live. But I want to go back a little moment and talk about you, Evan, for a second. Because I first became aware of you with Detective City of Angels. Like this was my first Evan kind of awareness. So I wanted to kind of get it from the horse's mouth where your journey began. What was your first game? How did you get into writing and designing?
How
long ago are we talking here?
I've always played board games. I've always loved board games. I have many memories of when I was a kid begging my brother and family members to play Axis and Allies or whatever with me, and no one wanting to do so, and me sitting around staring longingly at the board with all the pieces set up. by myself. So I've always liked games, but I got back probably in my mid-20s. I got back into board games, and one game in particular really pulled me back in was Battlestar Galactica from Fantasy Flight Games, which I
Solid
loved,
game.
but it takes like 3-4 hours to play. So at some point I just said, well, maybe I'll make a 60-minute version of it just for fun. So I did, and that ended up becoming Dark Moon, which is like a streamlined 60-minute. I took all the things I loved about Battlestar Galactica, kept those, and got rid of the stuff I didn't like, and put it in a 60-minute package and added dice. And that became my first published game from Stronghold Games in 2015, I think. 2014, 2015.
Wow, okay.
So that was the start of, and then eventually I met up with, I moved to Tennessee. I met up with my partner, AJ, who had started Van Ryder Games back in 2011, I think. So the company's over a decade old. And just we liked all the same kind of games. I showed him the early prototype of Detective, and he loved it, and the rest is history.
That's so cool. I really wasn't aware of that, and that's honestly because we're clearly two different people. You play Battlestar Galactica, and we're like, I think this is incredible, but maybe it's a bit long. I'm going to make what I love about this into an hour. Whereas I went, I'm going to play this one time, have a great time, ruin some friendships because I know I can never trust people again, and just they've broken all trust and never touch that game again, which is what I did because I do not have a poker face and I fall for every lie ever told to me. So your version of Dark Moon sounds incredible because that way, if an hour experience goes by, I probably won't fall out with anyone too bad. Like I know.
Well, Dark Moon, one of the good things about Dark Moon is that it amps up. One of the things that always frustrated me about Battlestar Galactica is depending on how basically the trader cards, which are Cylon cards, depending on how they come out, the first 45 minutes to an hour of the game can actually be really dull if it becomes very clear that there are no bad guys in the game yet. So Dark Moon, you can start pointing fingers and yelling at each other within like the first 10 seconds. Like I wanted the paranoia. So in case of saving friendships, Dark Moon might actually be worse for them than Battlestar Galactica. If it's just the playtime, if it's just the playtime, I have that covered. But if it's like you don't want to trust people, I don't think Dark Moon's gonna fix that problem for you.
I got you. So for anyone who doesn't know, so here's Dark Moon, and this is great because I didn't know that this was actually your first published game. This is really, really cool. Is it still in circulation now? Can people get their hands on it if they want?
Yes, I believe it is. So
this is awesome. I adore it. And so you mentioned Axis and Allies, which I think is like unexpected for me. That seems like quite a deep and strategic game. Are you still into those types of games? Or are you leaning more into the horror and narrative now, solo?
Axis and Allies is like pure Ameritrash. I mean, lots of minis on the map, rolling dice. So I have a fond place in my heart for that game, although it's been years since I've played. So yeah, anything that's thematic, and Axis and Allies is very, very, very thematic. So
I'm a Memoir 44 guy, I must admit. When it comes to anything in that territory, that was the game that won my heart. Incredibly light, but I always have a blast playing it, and I love 2-player games as well. So Memoir 44 scratched my itch.
I actually preferred Commands and Colors Agents.
Okay.
That system instead of Memoir.
Yep.
I think because playing Memoir, it always frustrated me. Like if I didn't have any of like the left battlefield cards, I'm like, come on. Can I really not radio my tanks? Or like, is it really impossible for my left? But in like the ancient world, it totally made sense. Like, oh, I sent a runner over there and he died, and now I can't communicate with the left side of my flank.
It was just breaking the theme just a stage too far.
Sorry.
And so Tomer was saying, hey, YouTube comments can be awesome. Do you know what? Whenever you're writing them, sir, yes, they can. I've seen a few of yours, and I respect that. Legends DM saying, I played Battlestar Galactica once, fell into the trap of following the Cylon. It happens. It happens for sure. Brady, hello, sir. Super dull. Oh, come on, Brady. You can share us what your favorite game is in chat. Shep had a quick question actually saying, I read the no profanity filter today, which I quite agree. Can you describe the context of when you felt for the first time you wanted to do a game for maybe a mature audience? So when did that kick in for you?
I mean, it kicked in during the writing of Detective City of Angels, because I, unfortunately or fortunately, man, I really do, I really do have a potty mouth when I'm, especially when I'm in any context where I can be completely unfiltered. I just, man, I love profanity. I just think it's just entertaining to me. I love it. I love all the different clever, creative ways you can do stuff with it. And so I would write these lines in Detective City of Angels, which I won't repeat now. I would write these lines that I'd just start laughing at them. They'd be so off color.
I mean,
and then
one of the biggest laughs I had in the past few months in the office, which is my home office here, was the conversation between myself and Rafal, game director of the Dark Quarter, when we were trying to decide what swear words would and wouldn't be allowed. Like what could pass muster, because we knew there had to be a limit somewhere, and it was finding that space. And I kind of don't want to say it on a live stream now, but there was some general sharing of words that just had me in stitches laughing, because I'm like, I really want this in because it's incredible, but I'm also like, is it pushing the boundary a stage too far? And it's a hard line to walk.
Yeah, y'all already made me like outlawed to a couple of words, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I have to say, yeah, I do feel bad because I did take away some toys from Evan for sure.
Okay. Which is funny. It's like it seems funny to be arguing for the freedom to just to use whatever of like offensive. By the way, the words we're talking about are not like slurs or ethnic slurs or anything like that. That's not.
Yeah, that was never a thing.
We're talking about terms that might relate to certain body parts, very colorful terms that might relate to certain body parts that we decided we're going to stay away from. But for the most part, it's gloves off on.
It is.
I feel like.
And I mean, I think this is a really good point. And sorry, I need to give a quick shout out to Brady saying his super doll was purely in reference to the freestyle on Battlestar, which we totally agree with. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yep.
So he wasn't calling us super doll, although maybe he was, and he just backtracked it. No, and I think so. If you haven't read the update from Evan today, on the Kickstarter, you'll see that we did that. To be honest, we opened with the replayability, which was, that's not the right tab. There we go. We opened with the replayability, which was a big bit. And then one of the things that we did on the very, very, very first stream was we had a chat, and we actually had a couple of people in the chat. I think Toby, if he ever sees this, was one of the people that suggested having a profanity filter. And I must admit, the initial reaction from myself and from the team was like, oh my goodness, like, why wouldn't we do that? Like, let's just have it in the settings. Let's have a button that you can click that hides or that kind of just changes the swear words. And it seemed like such an easy thing to do. Let's do it technically, and in the app, it'll be fine. And then as we started to think about it, we realized, hold on a second, this actually just doesn't feel right. And first of all, it didn't feel right from when you were reading text. Some of the characters might say 2 sentences and half of what they said is swear words. And when that's hashed out or changed, it just really doesn't flow well and completely breaks the feeling. And then going even further, it really takes you out of the setting, takes you out of the world that you've been getting and immersing yourself in, and just didn't suit. And then Evan, whenever you put this example together about what it would be like to have Pulp Fiction without swearing, that was like a light bulb moment for me. That was like, do you know what? You're 100% right. It's not the same to water this down. The response in the comments has been incredible. I know Jordan Border wrote, this is exactly what I want to hear about replayability. He talked about replayability, but he also talked about your writing, also talked about the whole immersion into the story. We had other people, I mean, it was really great saying that the personality and vocabulary is going to come out. Justin said, really like that you're sticking to your vision. So there's really been a warm response to both saying we're not going to try and force the game to be replayable as one point, and we're not going to water it down with a profanity filter. And it looks like it's been really well received, so I'm happy. And how do you feel about it?
Oh, I thought the response was really encouraging. And I think, if anything, I probably need to not overuse you can definitely overuse some of the profanity. It is difficult to know because in the game, any given scenario, people aren't going to see everything that I write. So, like for example, one of the characters, Sophie Romero, who's the head of the Beaumont agency, she is just angry and mean and very acidic. Now, if you only go and talk to her once or twice, it's not going to feel overused. But if you talk to her repeatedly over and over and over, then it can start to feel like, oh, they're using too much profanity. So that's a really tricky line to walk as well, because different people are going to experience different things. So it's possible you could play through a scenario and get hardly any profanity at all, or you could play through it and get all of it. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
And that's a really good point. When you've got player agency, there's going to be a certain aspect of it that's going to be outside of your control. And I know myself, so for those that don't know, as Evan mentioned, Sophia Romero is the head of the Beaumont agency, who also acts as someone that you can go to if you're a little bit lost on what you should be doing, or even what you should be prioritizing in case you've missed something. And she is the one who'll kind of direct you and be kind of, I say direct you, she's going to kick your ass. She's going to really be like, get out there. What are you doing here? Get out there and sort this X, Y, and Z out. And if you need to ask for multiple hints, it's going to make you feel really bad about it. Like, she doesn't give you like a pat on the back, like, there, detective. No. You can do it. This is like are you kidding me?
He's very insulting.
which I honestly, I embraced it and adored it. And it was, for me, it was in the right tone of your independent detectives who should be used to dealing with this stuff. Why are you coming to her? You know, this is the way I'd expect her to be.
She's written she's written to be entertaining and funny. So hopefully the response when you get that is that you'll laugh as she's berating you. But it's also intended to kind of steer you away from looking for hints, or even to create a psychological moment where you're like, oh, we need a hint, but now I'm going to have to, like, you actually like physically don't want to ask her because she knows that she's going to call you an idiot and all kinds of other stuff, which that's the kind of like physical emotional reaction I hope that the game elicits.
And that's, I truly love that. I'm actually going to see if I can just pull up her artwork quickly, because she's certainly, even in how she's being depicted, she has quite this is her. She has quite a stern quite a stern look about her. Yes. She really doesn't take kindly to being asked what she would consider dumb questions, for sure, which I really love. And I think one of the things I want to talk about, so kind of while we're on the topic of kind of mature content and you know, diving into the kind of darker side of things, one of the things we had appear was our stretch goal, or sorry, daily unlock 15, which was, oh my goodness, is that raving out for anybody else? Is that just on my screen?
Nope, it's definitely strobing. Hope no.
I mean, let's just say something.
Hey, we apologize for any seizures we just induced.
Sorry about that. Oh, there's Toby. Hello, Toby. Saying more profanity, more. It's almost like I summoned you, Toby. Stu saying, I kind of dig the strobing. I was saying, I think anytime that you have player agency, then you're giving players the impetus to experience more or less profanity. People that enjoy that will go visit Sophie more, and those that don't will avoid her more. It's really in the player's hands, which is cool. That's a really good point. And sorry for the raving there. Let me try again. There we go. We'll just do it this way. So yeah, we had the reveal of, now I don't actually know. Have we officially said the name of this? I'm still calling it just simply Demon.
That's fine. Yeah, Demon.
Because here's the thing. It's from the scenario, the Yesterday Demon. But I've been working with you now long enough, Evan, to not make any assumptions that this is necessarily the Yesterday Demon specifically, for example. So I'm like,
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't trust you in a good way. So, because I think that showing what we've shown on the campaign page so far and with the daily unlocks, certain amount of things people have said, oh, is that giving too much away? Is that giving away too many hints? And you've been quite clear to say, no, the miniature's telling you really nothing.
Right. And I'll actually, as I continue to work on it, I'll even play with backer expectation.
Yeah.
Like maybe I had one idea for what that would be, but see if everybody thinks that they already know what it is, then I might adjust it completely. So the framework is in place for all of this stuff. So Omari, Akil, and I actually flew out to meet with him a few months ago, and we broke all the stories, meaning we sat in a room and we planned out all the stories for the main campaign and the prequels. And so kind of the overarching what themes we wanted to deal with, what dramatic moments we wanted to have and stuff. So that's already been worked out. But some of the specifics or the journey that hasn't been done yet. So yeah, there's you can't make any assumptions.
I think that's honestly brilliant, and it's one of the amazing things that the good side of having the Dark Quarter campaign and having it be part of crowdfunding. Because every time backers make comments and they ask questions, they plant ideas in your head. We've had it happen in many of our campaigns before, where the community have either directly or indirectly affected what was in the game. And in the case of the Dark Quarter, there's so much writing to happen over the next year to year and a half. There's so much potential there. I love that you're so open to that flexibility. I think it's incredible. And Zach had a nice question saying, any plans on doing a full tabletop RPG setting for the Dark Quarter?
I mean, who knows?
I would never say never guy myself.
Right. I would never say never either. It is, I think a lot of it'll depend on how, once the game gets into backers' hands, how they receive the world and the setting.
Yeah.
And so it is a very rich world. We put a lot of work into it, but we never make any assumptions about, we think it's brilliant. We think it's good. We think it's lovely. We think it's great enough I am investing all my time in it. Lucky Duck, as the team there, Rafal, they're investing all their time in it. So but we don't make any assumptions that it's going to be, that people are going to get it and it's going to be universally loved or anything like that. So there's no telling. Yeah. But it's a very rich world. It has a lot of backstory, and it feels like I get personally excited for all the different kinds of stories that we can tell in this setting. It seems almost limitless. So hopefully that will come through. People will feel that way. They'll invest in the community editor making their own stuff. And if all that happens, then I feel like an RPG would kind of be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I must admit that I'll tell chat happily here that I think maybe on our third or fourth meeting about the Dark Quarter, as we were starting to really bring it together and form it, I was already saying to Evan, I'm picturing TV shows, I'm picturing comics, I'm picturing RPGs, because I was so taken by the world. And as someone who really hasn't dived into the likes of, Supernatural or like Vampire Masquerade, these aren't things that I've really touched before. For some reason, the Dark Quarter really resonated with me in such a personal way and such a visual way that I think anything is possible, but I think that we really have to keep in mind that we've got a big task ahead of us. We've got hundreds of thousands of words, or you've got 100,000 words to write between yourself, Omari, and Rafal. And once we get the game out there, if the reception is still good, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, I literally have my second computer right over here off screen open to the Dark Quarter editor, and I'm in the midst of already writing. So literally right here is a reminder of how much I have to do.
And on that point, Casey asked the question, do you use a particular app to keep track of the branching narrative as you write it?
So I have, there was one app we used briefly. I can't remember what it's called. Canvas, something like that. But no, right now, I have most of it in my head, and I have a lot of Post-it notes on the back of my door that I move around. So that's what I have right now. Like, a lot of this stuff is planned out, but I also, in the midst of writing it, I have ideas come to me and I diverge and change things. And so that's what's really great about creating a game like this within that is app supported in digital, is that I have the ability to do that, to go different ways and do all kinds of different stuff. So
love it. Casey says old school.
That's right. Old school.
That's great. And Stu was saying, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Stu is saying, I really dig Evan's approach here. Very game mastery in that you can twist the expected norms while which people provide it. And says, I'm here if you need me regarding a tabletop RPG. I love it, man. He says he loves the world, by the way. You should feel very proud of what you've got there, guys. So that's really, really awesome.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
Brady saying, I think there needs to be some Dark Quarter themed Final Girl feature film someday. We've started with some crossover. I believe that both Julia and Constance are going to have their own Final Girl profiles. For the game, but full blown feature films.
Yeah, absolutely. The sky's the limit.
Bree calling me out saying I haven't seen Supernatural. I'm going to close that and pretend that did not happen. I have not. That's. Do you know what? Do you have a TV show that's on your bucket list for a long time, and then you just never get round to it? I think that's one for me.
Supernatural is one of those shows. How many seasons are there? Like 14?
75? I don't know. Like
there's like an obscene. I'm sure Bree can tell us in just a second how many seasons there are, but like it's kind of, that's just too much. It's like anime. I remember somebody was trying to convince me to watch One Piece. And they were like, the first 200 episodes are kind of slow, but then it really gets going. I'm like, my gosh, there's like 1,000 episodes of this show. Like, I don't have time for this.
I know. As someone who's watched all of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, like I have been through that. But you need that expert to come in. You need some friend or some website to have gone through the pain so they can come to you and say, look, here's all the filler episodes. Here's all the ones you can skip. And here's all the ones that are just kind of recaps. And you go from 200 episodes to like 60 pretty quickly.
Did you see the thing that trended recently? Some guy edited all of the filler out of Naruto for his girlfriend. And made some kind of master cut.
Oh my! I want it.
I don't know if you can download it or if it exists out there or anything. But it was like this. It was like his girlfriend didn't want to watch it with filler, so he made a master cut of Naruto with no filler in it.
That sounds incredible. Like, really. The great thing about anime, though, because I think we've been trained these days for like half an hour or hour-long content. I think hour-long content is really becoming like very much a staple, whereas anime tends to be 20 minutes and normally has about 2 minutes at the start and end. And even at the start, sometimes there's recap. So you get through 4 anime episodes in an hour pretty quickly if you're Johnny. And if he's cut it together and got rid of all of that plus filler, oh wow, that's incredible. Bree says in Supernatural there are a lot of episodes, but it was really surprisingly worth it to watch it after putting it off. Okay. It's not going to happen. I don't think so. I don't have time. Susie says, hello, just popping to say hi. I'm excited about this game. I know that Susie is a backer, and I also know today that it is Susie's birthday. I won't say age on so happy birthday, Susie.
Happy birthday, Susie.
Zach was saying, as a horror fan, I believe this world has major potential, and I'm extremely excited. Awesome. I must admit, I think, as you put it, Evan, there's so much there already, but so much space to grow into that. And I feel like we've put the game as a 16 plus, and we've kind of hesitantly kind of put that on the box because we wanted it's a board game, and I think there's not that many board games targeted at a super mature audience. I think with Kingdom Death,
a couple of more obscure.
Yeah.
What was the Hate? From
yes, this is a good one with Adrian Smith's amazing artwork. But there's not, so I think we wanted to tone it down a little bit so it would still be welcoming. But is there going to be a Dark Quarter After Dark, like kind of 80 plus version? Potentially. Now, I have a few questions to throw your way. A couple that where we did not get into the FAQ. The first one is: will we see a Van Ryder style secret envelope in the Dark Quarter? Because I've heard that this is something that you do.
We do.
Is there anything at all?
I mean, Van Ryder always puts secret envelopes in our games. So, and granted, this is a partnership with Lucky Duck, but we are a portion of that partnership. If we have anything to say about it, then there will be a secret envelope.
There'll be half an envelope.
That's right, half an envelope. We wanted to give you a full one, but as said, no.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna half the backers will get the left half, and half the backers will get the right half. You're gonna have to come together. I'm going to say nothing at this stage, but I think if you've been a backer of Van Ryder campaign before, you love what they do. We love what they do, and who's to get in the way? Get in the way of stuff that we love. So I'm saying nothing right now. I see Board Gamer Steph has jumped in. Ooh, I have a question for Evan. This is a little personal because I know Steph is not that far away from you, because she says,
correct.
When is he coming over to play the Dark Quarter?
Steph, it's probably going to be. I love how we're actually scheduling this right now.
Via live stream.
It'll be Wednesday, Steph. So which will be the day before the campaign ends.
Wow.
I believe it ends Thursday morning my time. So the previous night, I think we're going to do it. So
what a treat.
I was going to do it Sunday, but my wife is out of town and I'm on kid duty, and she's coming back Sunday afternoon. So if I were to peace out for a 4-hour live stream with Steph, I feel like that she might be a little grumpy about that.
Oh, you're going to do it on All the Maples of the Rainbow live stream?
I believe so.
Oh, amazing! Oh, I love it. Well, I mean, if you don't know who Steph Hodge is, you must be sleeping under a rock, because everybody in board gaming should know who Steph Hodge is. Go and check out All the Maples of the Rainbow. Go and check out the blog on BGG, which is posted there very regularly. And she was making super jealous this week with her 2-part Gathering of Friends posts. My jealousy was through the roof. It sounded like an amazing time.
Steph, I have never met someone who she is at first I thought it was an outlier, the number of games she plays, or that she was padding her numbers or exaggerating, but it's not the case at all. She is a game. I don't think she eats or sleeps. I think she just plays board games. Like, she survives. She draws nutrition and sustenance from the act of playing board games.
There's always a moment where you drop in on Steph's stream, or you catch a blog on BGG, or you catch a post on Facebook, and it says, games played, and you're like, and it's got new to me, and then it's like, and then unique games played, and it's like, I've played 650 unique games so far in this year, and there's only been 100 days so far this year, and you're like, what, Steph? Like, that's how? What? I don't like. I can't.
Once you do that, once you work the averages out, it works out to like at least 2 brand new games a day.
Like, it's legit. So I actually sent Steph a Facebook voice message a few months ago, because I think I played 3 new games in a day or something like this, and I got my phone and actually sent her a message, went, Steph, I'm pulling a Steph today. I'm playing a bunch of new games at once, which I'm calling pulling a Steph, because it felt so good. It was really incredible to play some games.
And I'm sure her response was, those are rookie numbers,
I'm not stepping up. I'm not fronting when it comes to Steph. I know I lose that fight. Now, Zach has a question which relates to another one I'm going to actually answer, which is, will the app support online play? And there was a similar question we had, which was, will it be possible to save progress across devices, which kind of leans towards cloud saving. So I want to touch upon this a little bit. We have at Lucky Duck Games, when it comes to our app games, a general mantra, which is we do not require our apps to be used online. So you can download the app and download the scenario, and then you're good to go. We don't want any kind of dependency on an online connection or on any kind of cloud service or anything like that. That's generally the approach we take. We want the apps to add value, and we don't want to add extra loopholes in there that could potentially get in the way of you just enjoying that tabletop experience, right? So the first, to answer your question directly, Zach, is no, there's no specific online play built in. I've seen loads of people do Chronicles of Crime streams online and doing it on Discord and shared group chats like Zoom and things like that by simply sharing the screen of a device. But we wouldn't have multiple devices in different locations connecting online. That's not going to be a thing. To answer the second part of the question, which I added in, this was something that was talked about in some comments and also on BGG, which was the cloud saving of progress. Now, we don't currently plan to put anything like that into the app. Again, because we're really hesitant to have that dependency on online. But what we're looking into, because the Dark Quarter is so connected, and Evan has done this amazing world of connecting multiple scenarios together, where your choices are going to really impact from scenario to scenario. And we'll come and talk about that in a second. We're looking into having a way where you can easily export your files. So, for example, if you're playing on a phone one night and you want to play on a tablet another night, or you want to play on your laptop the following night, you can export your files and then kind of input them in another version of the app elsewhere. So you have that save ready to go. That's something we're looking into. We haven't got it kind of completely ironed out, but as we go through the progress of developing the game and the app, we will share that later down the line through the backer updates, and we'll make sure that's there for launch. Because this is probably the first time, Evan, that we've had a game where we've really had such a dependency on player decision that not just impacts the scenario they're playing and the story they're playing now, but actually has ripples through each scenario and even beyond boxes, even into other expansions. So could you give just a very brief overview of what you kind of expect from a normal campaign scenario to scenario? What's going to carry over for the player characters?
I mean, I have a document open right now, which has, so basically, to get slightly technical here for a second, I won't bore most of you. We track a lot of stuff with what we call variables. So for example, let's say a variable might be your health, and the characters don't have health in this, but it would be like your health is 4. And if you get hurt, then your health would be 2. And then that would be a variable that would be carried over to the next scenario. So the next scenario remembers that, well, your health starts at 2. So I have a document with like hundreds of variables of stuff that's being carried over between. So behind the scenes, there is an enormous amount of work done. So much more than players will ever like even realize. And hopefully that will maintain, like, I don't want you to know that. I don't want you to know everything that's being carried over. I want the illusion of this seamless, like the story just progressing in a way that your choices are being made. I want that to happen. But in order to do that, we have to account for so many different things. So we'll be porting over like the variables for decisions that you make. We'll be tracking that. We'll be tracking where you are in the campaign. So you're not, even though each scenario follows kind of a loose story arc, there are other stories happening simultaneously that you are not forced to engage with immediately. They're almost like side quests, as it were. And so we have to track that as well. Like, how far did you make it in this specific storyline? And we need to pass that over so that in the next one, it picks up right where it leaves off. So on the one hand, it's really exciting. On the other hand, I feel like I'm taxing Lucky Duck's poor developer Marchin with all of the stuff I need him to do in order to make this work. So
Not at all. I think it's an amazing challenge, and it's pushing the boundaries, and it's adding real connection and real, like, this player decision having such weight, and even in everything you do or don't do is incredible. And I know if anyone has watched any of the gameplay videos, there's very simple things that happen that as a player you may not even think about, like being followed or being jumped by someone because you've initiated a conversation, or because you've angered someone, or because there's a hostility change, because you've made decisions. These things happen, and you won't notice it until you sit down and play with somebody else or talk to somebody else about their game. Like, that never happened. I never went there. I never spoke to that person. They didn't get mad at me. Like, this. So, and that's the sandbox kind of open world exploration adventure game aspect of this that I adore. And the simple way I always like to think about it is, if you've got one of those fighting fantasy books or choose your own adventure style books, even from start to end, cover to cover, in a small little book like one of those, you're still only going to see about a third of it or a quarter of it, because you're not going to explore every single bit of it each time. You won't go down every dead end or every route and avenue. And the Dark Quarter is that dialed way up. Like, it's so much, it's so more expansive, which is incredible. So yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate the little bit of technicality. I think other people do as well. There's Sam Elliott says, will there be an Aquanet item card? Is that a reference you get? That's above me.
I don't, man.
I'm gonna Google it.
I hope it's not a NOLA reference.
the aerosol hairspray created by Red of St. Paul, Minnesota. The company brought the product to retail stores in 1961. That was way over. I'm not American enough for that.
Very specific.
That is
maybe
very
maybe there can be some hairspray that you combine with a lighter to like create your own flamethrower. That would be pretty
Don't even tease. That sounds incredible. I mean, speaking, let me just for a moment bring up one of my favorite minis in the game. And I must admit, I really hope we can realize this just as well as we've managed to have the sculpt done, because in the deluxe miniatures upgrade, you have the miniature of Esme, who has one of the most banging haircuts like I have ever seen in a miniature. I really hope that we're going to be able to pull this off, because I think those curls are, I mean, if we're able to do this, I think that will be enough of a reference for Sam, hopefully, because I think it looks great.
Yeah, her hair is awesome.
The most passionate I think I've maybe ever been for a miniatures haircut. I don't know if that's ever happened before, but Esme's hair I absolutely adore. Some sweet curl, says Steph. I had another question. Sorry, and please forgive me. I'm going to stay technical for just a moment. There was another question on BGG. I think it was, if I can find it now. It was John Harrop on BGG posted, can we use multiple devices? And so I want to just kind of touch upon that for a second. The intention is that no, you will play on a single device at a time, and very much the intention that you pass that around between the players so that you can read out your parts, that you can take on the control of your character and really immerse yourself. You could have one person read it all if you wanted. If you have someone very good at doing voices at your table, maybe. But there's so many decisions making, and there's skill checks to be done and entered. Whenever you're taking your turn, you will be interacting with the app. So it's one device to be passed around, really. Again, we tend to lean away from adding any potential technical difficulties with Bluetooth or near field control or Wi-Fi connection, that kind of thing. Toby says, were there any plots or things you couldn't include because they might have gone too dark/mature? Now, it is pre-Watershed here in the UK and in America. I don't know if you can go into any detail, but...
Yeah. So there was one subplot that there was an implication of violence of a sexual nature, and it wasn't described. It was simply mentioned by another character, and I had written it specifically as if this character was trying to goad another one in trying to like get him to lose his temper. And so it was almost as if it was unclear whether he was making this up or not, and it had actually happened, or whether he was lying about it just to get this character enraged. So that was how I wrote it. But then when we played it, I realized people thought, no, he was actually being truthful, and that was a little much. So in that sense, I cut that out. So, but that so far, that is the only thing. I already have ideas for stuff that's going to push the envelope, and I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work. I'm going to definitely be relying on Omari and Az and the team to kind of like to be like, hey guys, is this a little too much? So, because you can get, when I'm in the middle of it, I can get lost. I can get lost in it, because what I'm really interested in is telling a great story with great characters you love, which have, moments of heroism and moments of betrayal and stuff. And I'm not interested in just like wallowing in the filth of like, this isn't torture porn. This isn't like Hostel or Saw or anything like that. So even though there are dark elements, I don't want to dip my toes, my whole body into that water. I just want to dip my toes in it a bit.
But when you're writing about very personal, very real and true feeling characters, and you want to hit them in a deep way, and it's funny, we were talking about this just this week. Actually, when I was in Poland, I was talking with the team about bringing what do board games tend to do? And I think the assumption is board games bring fun, right? That you get around the table to play fun and make friends and have a good relationship in times. But the Dark Quarter is really going to, I hope at times, shock people a little bit, or have them kind of be reeling, or have them make tough decisions. There's these are things that you might normally associate with reading or with movies more so than playing a board game. So it's a fine line to walk between giving that compelling experience, but not completely shocking an audience who maybe aren't used to their board games doing that to them.
Correct. So I want you to be a little shocked and a little taken aback. I don't want you to be so horrified that you want to stop playing, but I definitely want to jolt you.
I love it. I adore that. And Shep had a question saying, what's your desired interaction or lack of for players while it's not their turn?
So we're actually going to, once we do the final rule book, well, I say probably, I want to actually put a preface in the front of the rule book that describes this. The intention is that everyone will be engaged and listening to everyone else's story. I want the stories to be strong enough that when it's not your turn, that you're still actively interested in what the other players are doing and saying, and building it in. That does require a level of attention that a lot of people don't associate with board games. I witnessed this with Detective City of Angels, where people would complain about the downtime. And I'd say, you're complaining about the downtime because you're expecting Detective to function like another board game, like Puerto Rico or Agricola or something like that, where you can just take your turn and then you can kind of pay attention to what other people are doing, but you don't really have to. You're just waiting for your turn to get around. In that case, downtime is a real big issue because you just be bored in between your turns.
Yep.
But in Detective City of Angels, like, it's designed that you're supposed to be paying attention and listening to what they're doing, that what they're doing is giving you information and stuff. And so the people who enjoy that game the most are the ones who are so engaged with the mystery and the story that they're not just checking out when it's not their turn.
Yeah.
So that is really what I expect and hope for the Dark Quarter. And your ideal experience is going to be one where everyone is settling in. They know that this is like, we're here to experience this all together. When it's my turn, I'm not just going to get the app and like just read whatever I'm doing quietly and then be like, like paraphrase it and be like, oh, well, I asked this person this and I found this. Okay, it's your turn. You play it that way, this game will be so disappointing. You will be so disappointed in it if everybody just gets the app, does their thing, and passes it to the next person. It is totally designed to be like just everybody involved, everybody reading out all the stuff, everybody listening, everybody discovering new angles and twists and all that kind of stuff, even if it's not your turn.
I completely adore that, man. 100%. And it would be like someone watching a movie and then it's like telling you what's happening on the screen. Like, right. It's not the experience is in the narrative, is in the decisions, is in what's happening. And it is a cooperative game. So really, even when other players are taking their turns, you want to pay attention to what's happening. You want to pay attention to what the players and characters they're interacting with. Even in the couple of playthroughs that I've done, I played once at 2 players, just with 2 characters, and it's worth saying, you can play this game solo. Of course you can, and you can play as a single character. You don't have to dual hand or triple or quadruple hand if you don't want to. You can absolutely enjoy it as a single character experience. And whenever we played with 2, I was paying attention to very specific things like the reactions of the NPCs that were being interacted with, and how if I needed to quickly switch location on my turn and go and kind of pounce on an opportunity to continue coaxing or continue intimidating, or if I had an item that I wanted to go and use on them to get advantage of a situation. You're missing, if you're not paying attention, you're missing so much of the story, and you're missing so many potential opportunities for you to change what you would do in your turn according to how the story evolved in that single action. So yeah, I agree. A great summary, Evan. And I think you're, well, I was about to say, you're right on the money. You're designing the game. You should be right on the money, but that articulated it really well.
Hopefully we'll do our job and we'll create compelling enough moments and situations that it will be easy for you to pay attention to what's going on when it's not your turn. Yeah. But that does expect a little bit of the players, and it expects them to come to the game with a bit of a different mindset.
Do we need to set some extra setup rules and be like, turn on the lights, light a candle, set the mood? I mean, Shep interestingly said, rulebook will read no smartphones, except for the one that's required to play
Right,
the digital hybrid board game. So we might have to caveat that slightly, but I like the intention. I like the intention a lot. So we're looking, I mean, we're now under a week away from the campaign finishing. We're so close. Let me bring this up for a second. We're so close to 750,000 euro, which is, honest to goodness, incredible.
That's
I
awesome.
honestly can't believe how well the campaign is going. We've got 5 days left. I really hope we're going to hit 8,000 backers, which would be really incredible. Is there anything that hasn't been shown yet in the campaign, or any things you would like to see, Evan? Any little teases you can give us? I don't know. Is there anything that hasn't been shown that you know is coming? Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that.
You know what's funny is I am literally wearing that same shirt right now. Like,
can you do that same pose right now though?
Yeah.
Money shot, says Steph. Can you, so for just people who watch the stream, forget all the other backers for a minute, forget the campaign page, forget anyone else, only the people who got 55 minutes into the stream.
Right.
Can you give us any tidbit about any story or any character or anything at all where you're like,
Anything
this
that's
is
not
going to
on the
impress you, or
page?
this is a cool thing?
Okay.
Put you on the spot.
So I'm really excited about, because we're writing the prequel scenarios concurrently, or we're planning them concurrently with the campaign. And I am really excited about creating connections between them. And so there are going to be characters that show up in the main campaign, like NPCs, and like die horribly. And then when you play one of the prequels, like you'll get to see them more. I want a lot of the moments that happen in the campaign when you get to the end, that they're almost to be like, when you go back and play the prequels, to almost like for them to be poignant, because you know what the future of these characters is.
Oh no.
So,
I can feel it already.
And I really do want to create as many emotional moments as possible. So I'm really excited about, like, for example, John Robichaux, who's he's one of the 4 Beaumont agents. His, like, the campaign and the crimes, the murders that are happening in the campaign are all connected to his wife's death. But in his prequel scenario, his wife will be alive, and the prequel scenario will deal with, the Yesterday Demon will deal with him. I say she'll be alive. She'll actually, so we have a feature called flashbacks. I don't know. Have we talked about the flashbacks?
Wait, do you know what? We haven't spoken about flashbacks in the Yesterday Demon and the other stories at all.
So all the prequel scenarios will focus on one character, and there will be flashbacks for them, where that character is experiencing something in the past. And for Robichaux, that will be him interacting with his wife, who's alive. And what you'll discover is that Robichaux was incredibly distracted, unattentive. His wife is kind of like, she feels maligned and pushed to the side because he's in the middle of trying to solve this really intense case. And then you'll know that she's going to die, and you'll literally be watching Robichaux make these decisions, like pushing her away. So that's, at least that's what I hope to create with those. We'll see if we're actually able to pull it off, but that's the intent.
And the idea being that you play through the base game 4 scenario campaign first, but then you have this expansion of 4 standalone prequel scenarios that are going to give you that extra insight. And you can play as any of the characters in each of them. Like, there's still 1 to 4 players, still full scenarios, but each one gives you an extra insight into each character with those flashbacks.
Each prequel scenario will have to, like, if you play it solo, then each prequel scenario can only be played with 1 character specifically. But if you play multiple multiple players, then yes, the other characters can come in. And the prequels, I think, are going to revolve around a lot. They're going to be a lot more mystery and like you're having to like solve, because it's going to happen in one thing. So there's going to be puzzles and mysteries and stuff to solve while we're giving you hopefully these really interesting story moments that will be Easter eggs and callbacks to stuff you experienced during the campaign. That's again why this game is really going to reward people who pay attention. So
this is so cool. Awesome. Right. If anyone has any final questions, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook, please feel free to pop them in now before we wrap up. It's honestly been a bit of a blast to see you work, Evan, and have this little bit of conversation with you and get a bit of a more insight.
Absolutely.
I know there's like just a massive amount more to come, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. I'm hoping for a really strong last few days, a few more unlocks to happen. And don't forget, folks, if you haven't liked our tweet over on Lucky Duck Games or Van Ryder Twitter, please go give us a like. We're only a couple of hundred likes away from unlocking our latest social stretch goal for linen upgrades. Steph saying, don't sleep during the game. Yes, save sleeping for the nightmares you're going to have. Yeah, like save that for nighttime after you've played and be shaken to your core. Awesome. All right, Evan, thank you so much for this, sir. I really appreciate your time. Everybody, have a lovely, lovely time. Thank you for being here and being part of this. If you have any questions after the stream, or if you're catching this later on, feel free to jump on over to the Kickstarter comments and ask away there, or pop them on this video on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll do our best to come back and reply to you there. Casey says, thanks, guys. You're very welcome, Casey. Thank you for being here. Steph says, bye, guys. You rock. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much, Evan. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.